November 23rd, 7:30 a.m. I hope I'm not going to look back on this as the moment I should have known better. I hope I can look back on this at all. If you're reading this, and if you're not me, then you know there was a catch. And of course there's a catch. You know why? Because this is my dream home. A late 17th century colonial for sale by owner at, and this is the part you've heard before, a price too good to be true. But here I am, nevertheless. I haven't met the owner, a mysterious man known only as Mr. H. Until yesterday, I'd only dealt with his really unpleasant attorney who makes it abundantly clear he only returns my calls because he gets paid to. But last night, an unrecognized number left me a voicemail. "Miss Marsden," it said, "I am delighted to hear of your interest in purchasing Seamus House. The house has been in my family since it was built in 1693, and it holds great sentimental value to me, though I never lived in it myself. I wouldn't part with it, but my mounting medical expenses compel me to sell. I'm not in any particular hurry, though. It's very important to me that its new owner appreciates the home's value and history. So I have a condition before beginning negotiations. I'm asking prospective buyers to stay in the house for 12 days and 12 nights free of charge. Treat the house as if it were your own. Make no modifications, of course, but live comfortably. My only requirement during this time is that you document your experiences in writing during your stay. If, after 12 days, you remain, we will discuss your time there, and if I feel you're the right sort of buyer, we can begin the discussion of purchase." He told me that if I agreed to these conditions, I should just show up at the front gate by 7 a.m. sharp this morning, where his lawyer would hand me the keys. And at the same time, on the 13th morning, the same lawyer will meet me again to take back the keys. I'm to be the only guest. But then he said something in the message that stuck with me, and I keep thinking about it. He said, "So far, no other buyer has remained after 12 days. He said, "I think it's the loneliness of the old house that gets to them." I almost rejected the proposal outright, gave up on buying the house at all. The owner, if this isn't some kind of scam, is crazy. But I couldn't stop thinking about the house. I looked up its history and found no record of any prior sale. I only saw a few articles in the 1990s that mentioned neighbors complaining about the state of disrepair at the time, and the owner's increasing fines from neglect. One article stood out to me, though. After years of complaints, the house had seemingly been repaired practically overnight. All fines paid, all matters resolved. It happened suddenly enough that it was notable to the local media. Beyond this, there was nothing about the place. For all I knew, this could be some sort of human trafficking operation. The one thing that gave me comfort was that his attorney had practiced some high-profile cases in the 80s before working exclusively for a private client ever since, presumably my Mr. H. So at least he was real, even if not the warmest guy. When you see these stories on those ghost shows, you wonder why the buyer ignored all the obvious red flags before committing to their doom. But if you really have to wonder, then you've never spent most of your adulthood in overpriced urban studios without hope of ever owning a home, only to suddenly have the house of your dreams in your grasp. It's pretty easy to dismiss your better judgment for a reasonable mortgage and a stone fireplace. Of course I went. This morning. Mr. H's lawyer didn't so much meet me at the gate as drive up and toss me the keys before speeding off without a word, but at least I knew there were keys to the house. If you're reading this, Mr. H, you might want to revise your process before selling future properties. But if no one's outlasted your condition so far and you're still doing this, I suspect your system is doing whatever it is you want it to do. Anyway, here I am, at Seamus House, day 1 of 12. Inside, the house is dusty, but overall tidy. Sheets cover the furniture. There's electricity, thank God, and the plumbing appears to be in working order. There's a few modern conveniences like a refrigerator and a microwave, but nothing like a TV or even an internet connection as far as I can tell. I'm going to take a more thorough look around and hope no one drags me into a secret tunnel where I find the former prospective buyers in cages. Sorry, Mr. H. You wanted me to document everything. You're going to get my unvarnished honesty. 1 p.m. I was going to take a more thorough look around, but I haven't been able to get past an old trunk I found in one of the closets. I only opened the thing to see if it was really an old one or one of those distressed reproductions, and I was surprised to find that it was very full of papers. Letters, documents, a few old diaries. A quick scan of the first few I found shows that a lot of them are from other people interested in buying the house. Maybe all of them, I don't know. They go back a long time. And by a long time, I mean centuries. Mr. H, how long have you been trying to sell this house? Has your family been consistently trying and failing to offload this place since the Salem witch trials, or is this some creative little gimmick to make it seem more interesting than it is? I'm going to tell myself it's the latter because I'm a little uncomfortable with the alternative. 6 p.m. I'm not so sure this is a gimmick. There's an incredible amount of effort put into this if it is. The oldest letters are old. The paper is crumbling. They smell musty. The writing on some of these is too difficult for my modern eyes to read easily, and I want to get to them, but for some reason it was an ordinary-looking diary bound in red leather that caught my attention first. The cover of the diary says 1972 timeline in gold foil, and inside the front cover is a name written in blue ballpoint pen, Barbara Price. The first few pages are just a calendar, unused from what I can tell apart from a line drawn through 12 days in November. Seamus House is written neatly at the start of the line, and then a small note underneath the line says Roger's trip. It's in another color like it was added later. The start of the actual diary part is largely empty with a few mundane notes here and there. Maytag repairman came. Linda's HS graduation today. Roger made it very clear he does not care for ham and aspic. The mundanity goes on for months and months. In a way, it was kind of fascinating how boring Barbara's life was and that she'd bothered to journal it. But sometime in late November, I noticed a single word scrawled in large reddish-brown smears. Shame. It made my skin crawl. I went back a few pages to discover that mid-November on was significantly more detailed than any prior time. She'd written so much that the content from one date spilled over into the next, and she'd scribbled new dates over the printed ones. She'd written on additional pieces of paper, some clearly just scraps of whatever she found lying around, and crammed them into the diary when there wasn't enough room. If this is a forgery, I'm concerned about its author nevertheless. But let's say it's not. What happened to Barbara? What was her shame? I went back to the beginning of it all, to the day before she learned she was going to stay at Seamus House. November 9th. Roger's behaving strangely lately. Distant. I feel like I did something wrong, but I don't know what. Is it because I've been so wrapped up in Thanksgiving plans? I didn't think it affected anything. There was one day I warmed up some TV dinners to save time, but I thought he liked the Salisbury. Maybe I am going a little overboard. I'm just looking so forward to Linda coming home, and I want everything to be perfect. I stayed within the budget Roger gave me. I even used coupons. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much. Dr. Richardson says that's the root of my problems. He was right about getting it all out in a diary first. I used to bother Roger with my thoughts, and then I'd be anxious about what he thought about my thoughts, and anyway, it's better this way. I just wish I knew what was the matter. It always seems worse when I bring up Thanksgiving. November 10th. Roger broke the news to me this morning, and I barely kept it together until he left for work. He said he was afraid to tell me too soon because he knew it would upset me, and he was right. Oh, I've been crying all morning. He says the firm is opening up a new branch in New Jersey, and he'll be the head of it. It's a huge promotion for him and a lot more money for us, but it's a 7-hour drive from here. 8 hours from Linda's school. Well, the whole reason we picked that school was so she'd be close to us. Now we'll have to move, and I never imagined we'd leave. We have so many memories in this house, and there's my garden, and where will the bridge club meet now? Marjorie's house is so uncomfortable, and Susan's got so many children running around that you can't hear yourself think, and George's little shih tzu is an absolute menace, but she won't put it out back when we go there. Not that I'll have to deal with it now. I don't know what's the matter with me. I should be happy for Roger. It's what he always wanted, but New Jersey. Not even the shore. Some place called Aptalintum. Roger says we'll talk about it more when he gets home. I'm so miserable I don't even think I can vacuum today. I'm just waiting to find out what else he hasn't been telling me. November 11th. He's been thinking about this for quite some time, it turns out. Roger, I mean. Last night I found out he's already picked out a new house. Oh, he hasn't bought it yet, but the owner has offered to let us stay there for a couple of weeks to help us make our decision. I was preparing myself to think of it as a nice vacation when Roger told me we have to leave tomorrow. For 12 days. We'll have to spend Thanksgiving there, and we can't really do much because we'll have to head back home the morning after. I asked him how he expects to pick up Linda and get back there in time, And that's when he told me that Linda's going to spend Thanksgiving with a school friend. I was so shocked I couldn't say anything. I ought to tell him I'm staying here and I'll go get Linda myself, even if I had to take a cab to do it, but I could just imagine him getting that look on his face. He'd say no anyway. He'd be angry with me on top of it all, and I suppose he'd be right. I'm being entirely selfish. I just can't understand why this has to happen so soon. It's very gracious of the owner and all, but really, who ever heard of living in a house before you buy it? I guess I'd better start packing. November 12th. I feel so hopelessly depressed. What an awful day. We just arrived, or rather I should say I just arrived, because I learned only moments ago, after 7.5 hours on the road, that I'm to be here by myself. We were packing up the car this morning when the telephone rang. Roger answered it, and I tried not to eavesdrop, but how could I not? He was yelling. Something about short notice and that son of a, this and that. I guess I hoped the owner of the house had canceled on him, but Roger told me to get in the car, and we left as if nothing had happened. I asked him if everything was all right, and he told me it didn't matter. I didn't like to pry, but maybe I should have. Imagine my surprise when hours later we pulled up to the gate, and he only took my luggage out of the trunk. That's when the other shoe dropped. He isn't staying here with me. That phone call I got this morning was from his boss. The firm's biggest client is threatening to go somewhere else, and now Roger has to go all the way back to try and smooth things over with the man. He has to take him to dinners and shows and things, basically do whatever the man wants, until he's sure it's smooth sailing. Roger isn't sure when he'll be back. It's possible he might not be back until the 12 days are up. I had to bite my lip to keep from crying my eyes out. I bit it so hard I made myself bleed. I asked what about Thanksgiving, and Roger snapped at me. He said we'd celebrate it when we got back. He told me this is just the way it has to be, and to write it in my diary if it bothers me so much. He said the owner wants us to take notes anyway. Notes, I said. What for? I asked him why we have to do this at all. Why can't we just go back and buy the house when we're ready? That's when he told me someone has to stay here for the next 12 days precisely, or else the owner won't even sell to us. It's one of his conditions. All this time I thought the owner was doing us some kind of favor, but it turns out he's an eccentric. Roger stood out there with me just long enough for some serious-looking man to drive up, hand me a set of keys, and go without so much as a how do you do. I don't know why the man gave the keys to me, as if he knew what had happened already, but Roger didn't seem to think this was strange at all. He just kissed me on the cheek, told me he has the house phone number with him and would call me soon. And then he left me standing there. I've been crying for the last hour. 6 p.m. I have to pull myself together. This is for Roger, and for both of us. There's no sense in moping. I might as well make the best of it. I've started exploring the place. It really is very old, but the lights are on and the heating works. There's food in the kitchen, which is very thoughtful of the owner, whose name I realize I don't even know. Or maybe I forgot. I'm always forgetting. Anyway, I'm going to do what I can to make this place feel like home for a few days. I'm not sure when Roger's getting here, but it will be nice for him to come back to someplace comfortable whenever he does. 9 p.m. Oh, God, I hate this. I'm not ashamed to say it. The house is huge and old and creaking, and I'm hearing every little sound, and it's made my imagination go wild. And then I lost my temper just now. I tried calling Linda for a comforting voice, and it rang forever before someone picked up. But there was just silence on the line for the longest time before I heard a man's voice whisper, "She won't answer." I said, "Excuse me, who is this?" But they didn't say anything, and then I lost it. I honestly lost it. I yelled at this person that this wasn't very funny, and to put Linda on at once. They hung up. It was obviously some sort of prank, probably by Linda's friends, but I shouldn't have snapped. They're just kids. Only now I'm so nervous I've started biting my nails again. Nasty habit. Roger says I'd bite my own fingers off if no one was around to stop me. I wish Roger would call. November 13th. Roger didn't call until this morning. He said he didn't want to wake me last night. Really, I don't mind. I was just so relieved to hear a familiar voice today that I think I must have sounded half crazy asking so many questions about his drive home. He couldn't talk long, of course, but it's all right. I'm determined to make this house feel more like a home. I only wish I'd brought a radio or something, but there wasn't really time to think about it. There's no television or radio or anything here, and it feels so lonely. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like someone's watching me. It's just the shadows, but Sometimes I think I see someone standing there out the corner of my eye. 6 p.m. I'm losing my mind, I really am. I was standing in the kitchen looking at the oven when I thought I saw the reflection of someone standing beside me. And I froze up. I'd be useless if a murderer were in the house like in those pictures Linda likes to watch. And then I swear to God I felt a hand brush my hair away, and then I felt breath on my ear. Well, I screamed my head off and spun around, waving my arms like I was in a swarm of bees, but no one was there. I must have felt a draft or something. I called Roger, but he wasn't home, so I called him at the office, and I broke down. I don't know what came over me, but I begged him to hurry up and get down here. And he just listened and then sighed and told me I'm being hysterical. I guess I was. I don't do well on my own. 12 a.m. Well, I guess that means it's the 14th now. I just had the strangest dream. I dreamed the man I thought I saw behind me today was real and standing here in this bedroom at the foot of the bed. Only I couldn't make out any features. He was like a big shadow. I was terrified and I couldn't move. He just stood there for the longest time before he sort of bent down and then started to crawl up on the bed between my legs. I don't want to write down what happened next. 3 p.m. I had a crying fit again this morning. So I've been cleaning and I feel better already. Or I did. I noticed a dark spot on the wood paneling by the kitchen doorway, but I didn't see the nail sticking out before I cut my hand on it while scrubbing it. How glad am I that I always think to pack a first aid kit. Roger tells me I'm too nervous, but he never regrets having some iodine in a pinch, does he? Anyway, the nail is a hazard, so I decided to pull it out. I know it's not our house yet, but someone could get hurt. Fortunately, there were some pliers in a drawer. Less fortunately, the entire section of paneling came off with the nail. I hope this doesn't upset the owner. Roger would never forgive me if the man refuses to sell to us because I damaged his historical home. Well, the panel must have been added later. I found some old floral wallpaper underneath, and there was a lighter spot in the shape of a crucifix that must have hung there for many years before it was removed. I felt kind of ill when I touched the spot. Maybe it was the old wallpaper paste. It did have an off-putting smell to it. All I know is I had to walk away and lie down before I was sick to my stomach. 9 p.m. I was on the couch all afternoon. That wallpaper paste must be toxic or something because I've been out of sorts ever since. It doesn't help that the house is, getting to me. Every time I close my eyes, I feel someone standing over me waiting for me to open them again. I realized I'd forgotten to call Roger, so I called him but didn't bother to tell him about the crucifix and the wallpaper. I didn't think he'd find it interesting. I asked him how his day went, and he said he didn't want to talk about it because I wouldn't understand it. He's probably right. I feel like a big dummy when he talks about his job. He said it's very likely he won't be back in time for Thanksgiving. I think I knew that. But at least he'll be back the day after to take me home. I mean, he wouldn't want to overstay our welcome. Roger was telling me how sorry he was about all this and promising me it would all be worth it in the end and this and that, but I had a hard time paying attention because that feeling came back. That feeling like a man was standing there watching me. I swear I saw a shadow out the corner of my eye, but I already know it's just my imagination, so I refused to look, but oh my goodness, my heart was racing. I must have missed what Roger was saying because he suddenly said he'd call me another time when I'm interested in having a conversation, and then he hung up. I felt like crying, but I just didn't. I don't know. I'm tired, I suppose. November 15th. Last night I dreamed about the shadow man again, but this time he was standing at the side of the bed by my arm. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move a muscle as he grabbed my hand and licked the place where the nail scraped me. I couldn't see any features or anything, but I could feel little teeth on the palm of my hand. His tongue was warm, and then my whole body felt warm. I began to feel very relaxed. I don't know if I was just accepting my fate in this dream or if I actually enjoyed it. But when he pulled away, I woke up in the middle of saying, "Stay." I wonder what Dr. Richardson would say that means. I'm not comfortable with it if I'm being honest. 3 p.m. I spent the day in the garden, which has gone positively wild compared to the neat condition of the house. It was cold and gloomy out today, but I felt safer out of doors than inside. I didn't see any shadows watching me there. It was just me and the weeds. I would have stayed there all day, too, but the cold became too much to bear, so it was back to the lonely old house for me. The best way to deal with loneliness is to stay busy, so I've decided to peel away that nasty old wallpaper before it makes someone else sick. 4:30 p.m. I'm trapped here, I really am, and I'm starting to think this miserable house is actually haunted. I was just starting to tear at the wallpaper when I felt a seam underneath. I think it might be a door. That awful nauseous feeling came back in a rush, but I was on a mission now. I had a mystery to solve. Anyway, I was trying to pry it open with a spatula I found when I felt a tremendous pressure on my wrist like someone was squeezing it. I thought maybe I was just straining my arm, but then a voice whispered, more like hissed, in my ear and said, "Stop!" I didn't see anyone there, but there were fingerprints on my wrist. I couldn't have done it to myself. I know I didn't. I panicked and called Roger at the office. I was so terrified I could barely get the words out. I tried telling him there's someone or something in the house and that I don't want to stay here anymore, but he just told me I was talking nonsense. Then he told me not to call him at the office anymore. He was close to salvaging this client relationship, and he said he can't do that if he can't manage his crazy wife. I guess I lost my mind for a moment and I simply hung up on him. I've never done that before. I stood there forever wondering if I should call Roger back to apologize, but then he had just told me not to call him at the office, so I didn't know what to do. I just knew I needed to hear some other human voice in this house before I went mad. Even as I'm writing this, I feel silly about the whole thing. I must have grabbed my own arm. That toxic wallpaper is probably making me hallucinate. I decided to go out and see if I could walk to town and pick up a radio or something. But I barely got down the drive before I felt a sort of panicky sensation, and then the dizziness came over me, and before I knew it, I was doubled over. I mean, I actually vomited. I haven't done that since I was pregnant with Linda. November 16th. I dreamed about the Shadow Man again last night. This is becoming a nightly thing. He slid up between my legs again, and I wasn't afraid, but I did feel terribly guilty about it. I said to him, "You can't. I have a husband." And for the first time he spoke to me. I mean, I couldn't see his mouth or anything, but I heard his voice. It was like a deep whisper, like the one I heard at the secret door, but gentler this time. And he said to me, and I wrote it down as soon as I woke up so I wouldn't forget it. He said to me, "That union is holy. This one is not." Kind of made sense to me. But then I woke up. I had this terrible guilty feeling. Because the reason I rejected the man wasn't so much that I didn't want him there, but rather that I'm not supposed to want him there. 4 p.m. I did it. I found a trowel in the garden shed and I used it to pry open the secret door. My God, the sick feeling had me gagging, but it was worth it, because behind the door was a whole other room. I nearly screamed. I was so startled by the statue of Mary staring at me only a few feet from the door. It didn't help that she was covered in several inches of dust and cobwebs. There were other things in the little room. Piles and piles of crucifixes, as if someone had been hiding them away in there, or hiding from them. There were other religious items in there, but I didn't get a chance to look at them before I heard banging outside the house, and then I heard a man yelling my name. I thought maybe it was Roger out there, that he'd come back, but when I went to the front door, he wasn't there. Then I heard it somewhere else, as if he was running all around the house trying to find an opening. I kept yelling, "Roger, the door's open!" But eventually it all just stopped. Oh God, did I dream it? I want to call Roger at the office. I'd actually be relieved to hear him be angry with me. But I just don't think I can bear to hear him call me hysterical again. Now I feel guilty, like I wasn't supposed to go in that little room. November 17th. I didn't dream of the Shadow Man last night. Why do I feel like I'm being punished for going in the room? I'm sorry if so. I won't go back in. I'll board it back up, you'll see. I don't think I'll call Roger today. I'll wait for him to call me. November 18th. I think he missed me. No, not Roger. He never called. I mean the Shadow Man. He came back in my dreams. And I'll tell you what, I was happy to see him. But the rest of the dream was very odd, and I feel a little disgusted with myself in the light of the morning. The Shadow Man stood over me, straddling me in a way, and then he pointed to me, to my body, really. and he said in that husky, whispery voice, "A taste of the flesh." I didn't know what to say, but he must have taken my silence as permission, because suddenly he was between my legs and he bit down on my inner thigh. My, the pain was something. It burned like fire, but then that heat spread all through me in lovely warm waves. I woke up smiling, and then I felt something wet on my thigh and realized it was blood. I don't know how I did that to myself. I don't know what's going on with me at all. Why am I having these dreams? Why am I enjoying them? I don't think I can ever tell Roger about this. I certainly can't tell Dr. Richardson. 7 p.m. I called Linda in the hopes I'd feel more like myself, but I couldn't seem to stay calm. It was good to hear her voice, but I felt jittery and nervous all at once. She was telling me she misses me and how sad she is that our Thanksgiving plans are off, and I found myself just agreeing with whatever she said so I could get off the phone sooner. Roger called me not long after, and I felt so irritable. I just need to rest. I don't feel like I've slept at all, not really. What I'd like is to sit in the bath for a while. I keep thinking about my dreams. I wish I could wash the memory of them off of me. Meanwhile, Roger was telling me how sorry he was for the bad mood he's been in and for being unavailable. I'm sure he meant it, but I just didn't want to hear it, not then. I can't even remember the rest of what Roger said, because I looked down and realized I'd been digging my nails into my arms and scratching. I had little fingernail cuts all over me, little half-moons, raw and bleeding. I'm not sure how I ended the call, but I felt like I needed to lie down again after. I turned around to do exactly that when there he was, the Shadow Man. It didn't feel like I was dreaming. It felt very real, more real than I would like. I tried to scream, but suddenly I was wrapped up in him, as if he'd melted over me, and then all of that fear went away as he whispered to me that same phrase I dreamed before, "A taste of the flesh, a taste of the flesh." I felt nothing for a while, like I was floating in warm jello, and then I felt more. I must have passed out. Or maybe I really was dreaming the whole time. I mean, of course I was. It's just that it's all blending together. I woke up and there were what I can only describe as bite marks all over me, smeared with blood. Rationally, I knew I should just call pest control. This had to be rats or fleas or something. And yet all my thoughts returned to one. I hope I can dream of him again later. November 19th. I didn't dream of him again. Why didn't he come? Was it because he got the taste of flesh that he wanted? The marks he left me are turning black already. I haven't been able to eat today. My coffee tastes like ashes. My mind kept racing over the events of the past few days over and over and over, until it physically hurt. I needed to occupy my time with something more productive, so I decided to pull off that panel again and try to clean the wallpaper behind it, and maybe scrub out the crucifix shape, but the paper wouldn't come clean. So I took scissors and carved away at the cross part. It was the cross that was the problem. It made the wall look dirtier than it was. As I was working, I kept picturing those scissors slashing away at my hands instead of the wall. Maybe he'll come if I bleed, I thought. But the thoughts made my heart race. They didn't feel like my own. At least the wall looks better now. 11 p.m. He came to me again, at last. He stood beside the bed and I sat up to meet him this time. He said what he always says, "A taste of the flesh." And I knew what he wanted. He wanted me, my flesh. I looked down beside me and the scissors were next to my pillow. I must have gone to bed with them. My thoughts were racing so fast. Where could I cut myself so that he could have what he wanted without really hurting myself? My ear. My ear seemed the most reasonable place. I lifted the scissors up to my ear and I swear I only meant to make a cut, but I was overeager with them and I ended up cutting off the fleshiest part of my earlobe. I put my hand up and felt the skin hanging there by a skin thread. Why had I done that? Why had I just done that? This was too much, too far. But before I could stop it all, he flew at me and I could feel his teeth on me. He tore at the loose piece of skin like an animal and I felt his hot tongue licking up the blood that ran down from it. When he was done, he just vanished. And I didn't wake up because it wasn't a dream. It isn't a dream. This is really happening to me. I guess I won't be calling pest control. November 20th. I couldn't sleep last night. Not a wink. It's all beginning to make sense now, and I can't stop thinking about it. I think my shadow man is a demon. I mean, it makes sense when you connect all the strings. He said our union was unholy. He gets mad at me when I go near the room with the crosses. I personally felt so much better after I scratched out that crucifix shape on the wall. The trouble is, none of this bothers me. I mean, if he's Satan or something, I'm really okay with it. And what harm is it doing, you know? Roger will never know. He'd send me to the madhouse if he did, but he wouldn't believe I was having an affair with the devil. It's always the blood that makes him come to me. Like a little sacrifice. Is that what he means about the taste of the flesh? He's always gone again soon after. I wonder, if I give him more, will he stay longer? My ear is sore, but it's not so bad. I could deal with a bigger piece. Maybe from my thigh. He did seem to like my thighs. 4 p.m. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I did it, but what a terrible timing. I mean, of all the rotten luck. It was just a little piece of skin from my thigh, and I doused the knife in iodine, but I bled like crazy and made a terrible mess. You'd think I killed someone, and I thought I could deal with it later, after he came, I mean. Only the worst possible thing happened. Linda showed up. Oh, God, how awful. She got a ride with a school friend whose family lives about an hour from here. She wanted to surprise me for Thanksgiving. I was still wearing my bathrobe, and I don't think I bled through it yet, but I'm not sure she didn't see something. I had to have her wait in the front room while I bandaged myself and put proper clothes on. She seemed worried when I sat down again, and then she talked forever. Oh, God, how she talked. Betsy Sue this and Carolyn that, and then every minor detail about English lit and her women's studies. Oh, my God, I thought she'd never shut up. And she wanted to use the bathroom, so I had to run off to clean it first. I put the skin I cut off in some Tupperware and wiped out the blood as quick as I could, but I'm sure I missed something. Linda must have asked me if I was all right 100 times, and I'm afraid I snapped at her after a while. Finally, she asked if she should just call up her friend and stay there if she was inconveniencing me, and I was probably a little too hasty with my agreement. I told her I was just in the middle of getting the house ready for us to move into. She was surprised to hear that. She said I thought you hated it here, and I said it had grown on me, I guess. I was so relieved when her friend came by to pick her up, but she looked so disappointed. I feel terrible, but I can't make him wait forever. She'd understand if she knew. Well, no, she wouldn't. No one would understand. That's what makes it special. November 21st. After Linda left, I went to offer my skin to my devil, but the Tupperware was empty. Did he already take it? I felt wretched all night to think I'd missed him. He didn't come to me, so he must have taken it. I thought he'd wait for me. There. Just now. I heard him whisper. I don't think I imagined it. He said, I need more of you, Barbara. More of you. He said my name. I'll give you more of me, my love. I'll give you whatever I can. I have 10 fingers, and I can do just as well with only 9 of them. It'll be painful, but I know you'll make me forget that pain. 12 p.m. I must have passed out. There's blood everywhere. My wedding ring finger is gone. So my cutting it off with a butcher knife wasn't a dream. I don't remember what happened next. I've a vague memory of the phone ringing and ringing and ringing. Did I dream that? I don't know. But it stopped now, and I'm afraid I missed him again. Well, if I can do without one ring finger, I can do without the other. 3 fingers and a thumb on each hand is all I need, like Mickey Mouse. But what else will he ask of me? How much of my flesh will he consume before there's nothing left of me to love him? November 22nd. Shame! What have I done? What have I done? I've killed him. I've killed my husband. I woke up to Roger at the front door. He said Linda called him and was worried about me. He said he'd been a jerk about his job and about Thanksgiving and about this house. He wanted to make it up to me. So he got up at the crack of dawn and drove straight here. He only stopped for groceries. He had everything for Thanksgiving with him. Turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing. He said Linda gave him a list and she'd be over later. He said we'd have Thanksgiving like a family tomorrow, and then he told me we weren't going to move. He said the promotion wasn't worth it if it was going to ruin our lives. A week ago this would have been the best news I could hear, but it was the last thing I wanted to hear now. I never wanted to leave this house. Never, ever. I finally had something I wanted, and Roger was going to take it away from me. He had his back turned to me. He was putting the groceries away, and then I took the same knife I used to cut my ring fingers off, and I stabbed him in the neck. He looked so surprised, so hurt. He fell to the floor, bleeding everywhere, gasping for his last breaths, and I just threw myself down on him and sawed away until his head came away from his shoulders. I don't know how I found the strength. I didn't think the knife was that good. When it was done, I just looked at the mess and I screamed. I thought I would be happy. But cutting off your husband's head is a very different thing from cutting off your fingers. There's no coming back from this, and Linda will be here later. How will I explain this to her? Will I even be able to? I keep hearing my shadow man call to me. He isn't finished with me yet, and I'm terrified of him, but I still want him. If he comes to me, I won't be able to stop him from hurting my Linda, too. His voice gets louder and louder. He's begging me to let him have more of me. I plugged my ears with my fingers, but then I see everything in the house shaking. I see his shadow everywhere. I hear him in my thoughts telling me that it's my flesh he wants, not Roger's. I turned on everything in the house to block out his voice, but everything I tried turned into his voice. The blender shouted at me, the vacuum cleaner, the kettle. I threw them all outside until there was nothing left that could make any sound. And then I sat there quietly on the kitchen floor where the rest of Roger's groceries had fallen. I sat there enjoying the peace. And then I heard a sound like wet meat moving around. I was afraid to look. I didn't want to see Roger's body. But what I saw first was the turkey, the opening where the giblets go. It was pulsing. I said, "No, no, please leave me alone." But then I felt him again. He came over me like a cloak, and I felt like everything was going to be all right. I was staring at that turkey carcass, and it was moving its whole. And it said to me in his voice, "Lift me to your breast, Barbara, and let me nurse from you like a child." Oh God, I did it too. It seemed perfectly natural. I held the turkey to my breast, and it felt right. I was nursing the thing that was him, in the form of Thanksgiving's main course. When I caught sight of my reflection in the oven door, and what I saw was not the turkey, not my devil, but Roger's head chewing at my breast. I screamed until I couldn't any more, and I threw the head. I vomited. I was so disgusted with myself. What have I become? All I could think to do was beg for forgiveness, and the only safe place to go was the place he would not. Little room with the crucifixes. But it's almost worse in here. He can't come to me here. In here there is no distraction from what I've done. All I can do now is write in this diary, and hope that when Linda comes she finds it. Oh, Linda, my darling, get out. Get out of this house and never look back. Because if you come here, I don't know what he'll do to you. I don't know what he'll make me do. 11:30 p.m. Jesus, I've been reading Barbara's diary for hours. Whoever wrote this, if this is fake or if Barbara Price really existed, I hope they get, or got, the help they need. But I don't think I can ever look at this diary again. There are some suspicious rust-colored stains all over it, and what looks like grease spots. And on the last page, there's a piece of what my gut is telling me is dried turkey skin. I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
A taste of the flesh.